Now, still talking changes in the office, the appointment of Olayemi Kadaso of the new governor as a new governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria has been welcomed by many Nigerians. Now, some citizens in Plateau State, North Central Nigeria, applauded the development with hopes the emergence will improve the economy of the nation. Now, economist analyst Muktar Mohammed and principal partner Woodridge and Scott consultant Segun Sopitan joins me on the news for a broader perspective on this. Gentlemen, good to have you join us on the news.
Thank you.
Okay, let me start with you, Mr. Muktar Mohammed. What is your reaction to the appointment of these three new executive vice presidents of NNPC?
Well, it came as a surprise, though. Not too much of a surprise because I expected that changes would come in that space. But the NNPC now is more or less like a public company, Nigerian Limited. So I'm sure this appointment may be coming from the presidency, but the way the structure of the NNPC is done because of the petroleum industry bill, it most like if it's coming from the NNPC itself. When you look at those appointments, you look at that, those are the key drivers of what the president says he wants to drive the economy. You look at the downstream, you look at the upstream, you look at the power, gas, new energy, just appointing new vice president. But my own challenge is I think they have directors that are in charge of these, that the director is going to be under the vice president. Well, how does this nomenclature going to work? Remember that we already have a downstream and an upstream, which was covered from the former DPR. So I will watch and see how this happens. Maybe there won't be conflict in between. Well, again, like I said, it's a private company. Even if it's owned by government as the major shareholder, and NNPC also is thinking of being listed in the stock exchange. They were supposed to do that before the second quarter of this year, but I think they are silent about that, and I'm sure this reorganization will create room for that. So that will bring transparency into the NNPC.
Okay, let me speak now with Mr. Segun Sopitan. One cannot talk about the NNPC and not talk about the premium motor spirit. What do you think should be done or put in place to get our refineries working as a way to reduce importation of refined petrol, PMS?
Well, I think that's a trick question because it seems to be a perennial problem that we've been unable to resolve as a country. So if you ask me, as a private sector person, who's been in this finance, banking, and investment industry for almost 30 years, I would almost be tempted to say, just sell them. Just find somebody who will take them as they are and recover as much money as you can recover, and then the government can decide whether they want to make new investments in new refineries or encourage private sector players to invest more, the way Dangote has done. I think that because it's a strategically important activity and sector of the economy, the government must have some sort of a stake and some sort of operational involvement in that space, and therefore sell these refineries and build new ones. I think you almost certainly achieve better results than this endless catch-22 chase for turnaround maintenance of these refineries. As soon as you get them working, maybe to 30–40% capacity, they break down again. Because for one thing, they're almost obsolete. These refineries were built 40 years ago. So my suggestion would be sell them, recover as much money as you can get from the way they are now, and then invest in greenfield refineries that will be either fully owned by the government or owned by the government in partnership with private sector players.
Okay, talking about...
To continue to,
Okay, let me just chip in there, Mr. Segun Sopitan. You talked about the need to sell off the old refineries and build new ones and get us refining our oil. Now, talking about new refineries, what do you think can be put in place? As a way of not repeating the same mistake of the past, we have 4 refineries on ground, not fully functional. So what needs to be put in place? What adjustment, restructuring needs to be put in place to ensure that if we have new refineries and sell off the old ones, these new ones will function in full capacity?
Absolutely. I think that's a very important question. And I think that's the reason I said probably the best option to go with will be to invest in new refineries in partnership with private sector players who will hold operational role, who will be the ones responsible for running those refineries at a profit and returning some profits to the government. Nigerian government in particular, has shown with the evidence of history that they are incapable of managing, pretty much almost anything. You can talk about any national working asset, whether it's the airlines, whether it's the shipping lines, the refineries, it's all a tale of woe. So I would think that, doing this in partnership with private sector operators, but with the government owning enough of a stake to have a say at board level, will probably be the best way to go.
Okay, now let me move to Mr. Muktar Mohammed. Let me just get your perspective on what needs to be done, what adjustments or correction or changes need to be put in place to ensure, we curb the incessant importation of refined crude in Nigeria. That question is for you, Mr. Muktar Mohammed.
Yeah, I think he has said it all. Number one, we need to get our refineries working, and it shouldn't be government driven. It's not in the business of government to be in business. Government needs to get the right policies. British Petroleum, the British government have the highest stake in British Petroleum as a shareholder, but they don't run British Petroleum. They collect dividends and payment when British Petroleum declare profit. We should look at the LNG experience, which has really, really worked for Nigeria up to this moment, whereby government is just a shareholder, and some of those monies were those monies that came to us in the times of need. So we'll begin to run our establishments like that, where government becomes a shareholder, Nigerian public become a shareholder. And then government will not have to put so much money there because, they have to generate their own fund. Government will be getting more fund from there. So for me, I think that is the way to go. Building new refineries at this moment, I think government should just concentrate on giving license, especially for modular refineries, and then seeing how they can sell off the old Osolo refinery, like what the Obasanjo administration were about to do before the Yar'Adua administration canceled that. I think we should begin to look at selling up those refineries instead of wasting so much money in turnaround maintenance.
Now, I'm still staying with you, Mr. Muktar Mohammed. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room, which is the incessant increase in the price of, PMS, pump price of petrol. Despite palliative being ruled out by, 500 billion naira, state governors have taken the initiative on how to roll out these palliatives in their state. But then we're still experiencing increase in pump price. So beyond palliative, beyond the disbursement of these funds for various states in Nigeria, what can the NNPC do to help stem the tide of increase in pump price, which we experience, almost regularly here in Nigeria?
Well, they have nothing they can do about it. They don't have control over that. It's international price. I'm still surprised that we are still having crude at the price that we are. PMS at the price we are having it now because crude have moved to $92 per barrel. So we expected that increment to come indirectly now. By the time you look into the books, maybe because of the cry of the people, NNPC have not increased the pump price because ordinarily that's what the regulation is all about. The only way you can curb and bring down those deregulation is when you begin to do local refinery. And when you do local refinery, the only difference is that the cost of production will come down because you will not be paying landing charges, you'll not be paying the MERSA fee, you'll not be paying demurrage, you'll not be paying all those charges because they are locally produced. So you just take it from productions straight into the vessels that have to go, all the tanks that are supposed to distribute it within or pass it through the pipeline. So that's the only thing that brings those prices down. So for now, if we want to do the regulation, definitely we should be prepared for that. But maybe the price will come down when we start doing local refining of those products. Ordinarily, that is what is in any place in the world. And now we have a peculiar situation because we are importing this product also. We're having challenges when it comes to oil and gas also.
Okay.
Because we're having challenges when it comes to we're having challenges when it comes to the volatility in the exchange rate.
Okay. Now, we're looking at the appointment of 3 new executive members of the NNPC. One of the details given us of these new additional members is that some members, 3 members, have retired. Beyond these new executives being added to the NNPC, in terms of changes, just give me your thoughts as to what other changes the NNPC needs to do to help position Nigeria, in a better state.
I think corporate governance, there needs to be corporate governance. We don't want the situation whereby it takes NNPC 3 years to release their quarterly their results. Especially, they should be giving us results quarterly and annually also, so that we know where the NNPC is. It is so that we know the state of where we are in our oil and gas sector, knowing fully well that the oil and gas sector is the cash cow of the Nigerian economy. We need to be, for me, I think what they need to give to us is corporate governance. They're already involved in the downstream. They are acquiring a lot of companies. They just acquired some stake in Owando, the downstream sector of Owando. They acquired some stake of Owando also in South Africa. So they are doing that. They are looking towards becoming like Petrobras in Brazil. They are also looking becoming like British Petroleum. They're also becoming like the Saudi-owned private-owned government oil company. So they are on the right step. But again, we need them to tell us corporate governance is the key.
Okay, let me now move to Mr. Segun Sopitan. We'll talk about this new 3 executive members added to the NNPC as a change to help restructure the NNPC. But beyond these appointments of these new executive members, what other changes do you think the NNPC can put in place?
Well, I think to a very large extent, my colleague, fellow panelist, Muktar, has said most of what there is to be said. Corporate governance, corporate governance, corporate governance. Now, we need to remember that technically speaking or practically speaking, NNPC is probably the most important company in Nigeria. Some would argue more important than the Nigerian government itself, because the lifeblood of our economy derives from the activities that the NNPC is either running on our behalf or managing on our behalf, Therefore, the way NNPC is run is absolutely critical to everything about this country. And I think, above all else, transparency in the running of the affairs of this organization is absolutely critical for us to derive the full benefits as a country of its activities. For example, how much does it cost Nigeria to produce 1 barrel of crude oil? It's still subject of all sorts of subterfuge and debate and what have you. How much does it cost to produce one liter of petrol, PMS, kerosene, AGO? We don't know. Nobody really knows. The people that know, but the majority of Nigerians don't. And we have to remember, regardless of the fact that NNPC is now a limited liability company, Nigerians are still the owners of this company, and it's still serving the interest of Nigeria as a nation. So that transparency factor is absolutely critical.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. This is where we draw the curtain on this conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Muktar, Mohammed, and Segun Sopitan. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.